I'm Michael Damiani, and I have seen Stranger Things Season 3.
I'm Ian, and I've seen Stranger Things Season 3.
And I'm Sophia, and I have also seen Stranger Things Season 3.
This is your final warning. Spoiler mode starts now.
Spoiler mode, final warning, spoiler mode activated.
Stranger Things Season 3. I had been waiting for this for a long time. I am really into Stranger Things.
Oh.
I really, Season 1 came out of nowhere for me.
Yeah.
And I fell in love with that show. And I was like, everything about Season 2, like the promotional stuff, everything at the time got me really excited about Season 2. Season 2 for me was pretty good. Had more ups and downs for me, a little uneven. And now Season 3, I have to say, after watching Season 3, I feel like it's back to form. I feel like it is definitely much better than Season 2.
Better than 2.
Way better than 2.
Yeah.
I don't know if I don't think, in my opinion, I don't think it's better than Season 1.
Nah, probably
But
not. Yeah,
I
probably.
feel like it's gone in a really good direction, and I really like what they did with this season.
Yeah.
I really like I like the style choice they went with this. That it is kind of more like an 80s action film with like horror, like cheesy horror, like The Thing, The Blob. They do all these great
Terminator.
Yes, these references. And I'm kind of curious. How did you feel about this season? Did you feel that it was better than Season 2? Do you think it's going in a good direction? Because obviously, it's not going to end with season. It's not ending with Season 3. We're going further than Season 3. So how did you feel overall?
I thought it was good. I mean, I'm kind of in the middle. Like, I don't dislike Stranger Things, but I'm also not over the moon about it. I think it's good, fine.
Okay.
You know.
Yeah.
Season 2, I thought was maybe not bad, but it definitely wasn't great. And I thought this season was a lot more fun. I think my main thing with Stranger Things is my main thing with all, if not most, if not all of the Netflix original programming series is the pacing is weird.
Okay.
And I think that Stranger Things is paced because they know you're gonna binge it, and they know they've already got you. It's paced like a movie and not like a show. So it's paced like a 7.5 hour movie, where the end of Act 1 is the end of episode 3, and on a normal show that needed to keep our attention, the first 3 episodes of this would have been the first episode.
I see. So let me ask you this, Ian, because I did feel a little bit about this way about the start of the season. I felt the first 2 episodes are a little slow.
Yeah,
They're
incredibly
very slow.
Very
But
slow.
once you get over once you get over the first episode, they're not bad. They're just very very slowly.
It's just,
and things pick up at the end of episode 2's cliffhanger, and then just in episode 3, it just takes off and starts running.
yeah. I mean, and that's generally the issue with a lot of Netflix stuff. And season 2 had a weird lull in the middle that everyone knows about, whatever. But yeah, that's my general thing is these shows are too slow.
Okay.
They take too long, and it's not really interesting or worth it to be that slow. I'm not saying you can't be slow, because sometimes that's awesome. But
it's only it's interesting because there's only 8 episodes as well, which tends to be on the shorter side of Netflix series, where there's plenty. I can tell you all the Marvel series that run for 13 plus
which
episodes,
are abysmally
way too
slow.
long.
Yeah, those should all be like the Marvel ones should have all been 6 episodes.
Yeah.
Stranger Things should probably also have been 6.
It should.
What did you think?
Yeah.
I think, overall,
Yes.
I liked it a lot more than second season. I think one of the reasons I didn't like second season is because I felt like Eleven didn't have a reason to be there. She didn't have a reason all the way until the end. They had her there, and she was with Hopper, and it was a cute relationship. And then she went and did that weird, edgelord, I'm gonna, find my sister. And then
New
I like
X-Men
that
or
they
whatever.
just ignored that happened in this series, in this season. They were just kind of okay, we missed out on that one. We're not gonna go back to that sister thing. I like that, but I think there were a lot of good things about this one. I think we already talked about pacing. I 100% agree. I think it should have been 6 episodes. There were a lot of things that, while I really liked the wholesomeness, I liked the whole coming of age. Their approach was very similar to, I don't know. I think I liked that they went full camp on this. They went full 80s. They didn't, try and put the modern in the 80s. Because I felt like the second season, maybe they kind of held back a little on being cheesy and more being serious. And this one, they were like, you know what? The reason people like it is because it's 80s.
Just to have fun.
Just to have fun. And yeah, it is serious, but let's just have a lot of like coming of age fun stuff, because the first and second season, everybody's sad all the time. And so, except for like season 2 when they were Ghostbusters for half a day, and then like everything's sad again.
Yeah.
So I kind of like that they were like having fun, and they had the montage where you change clothes. Love that. Like
staple.
There were so many cool little 80s things about this that I really liked. The absurdly evil Russian villains.
Yes,
But
that was
I
perfect.
love that.
Yes. I saw some people being, this is absurd.
Yeah.
There's no way people would just be walking, like Russians in full uniforms, just be walking around in this like cheesy, but this is 80s. That's what
Yeah.
80s films were. I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
they nailed that style, and like I appreciate that, because as you were mentioning, trying to make a modern retro film, like a modern 80s film, like those modern styles, modern tropes trying to take place during that, it kind of ruins the effect for me.
Yeah.
It
Ready
doesn't
Player
it,
One.
it doesn't feel
Right.
like, yes, it definitely feels like this was made in modern times.
Yeah.
This was not a film that I would believe would have been made, or a show that would have been made in the 80s. This passed more for that in my book.
Yeah,
and
I
I
think so too.
appreciated that, because that's harder to come by. The further we get away from each of these decades, it's just it's gonna be harder to nail that feel, and it's just gonna be, oh, it's just because they made that reference. Aha, yeah, it's 80s. And I appreciated it about this, and I really liked it about that.
Yeah, and you have to go all out, I think, with 80s. And I think they did. They didn't take themselves too seriously. And yeah, like, the thing with villains is the biggest villain, obviously, is this monster. And because now we don't have the lab. Like, that all was disappeared. And so I like that instead of just having, like, I love body horror. So I love the fact that there was a lot of body horror, a lot of, like, crazy, googie stuff. Because I think it would have been so boring if they were just running away from the ghost again. Like, okay, we're running away from that black thing from Lost. Like, they needed something physical, but what kind of human should we do? Let's just do something really dumb. Let's have Russian people with no reason for doing any of this. Like,
Yeah, it's never really
Yeah,
explained.
there's nothing's explained, but you know what? It's funny. It's, I think that was really cool. I think the only thing that annoyed me, I guess kind of with the Russian, the more I think about it, there were 2 redundant arcs in this, and that I didn't like that. The fact that both Steve, Robin, and Dustin and Lucas' little sister
Erica, yeah.
and Hopper and Joyce were doing the same thing. They were both hunting the same Russians, doing the same thing, and in the end, there was only one payoff, and that was kind of with Steve and Robin, right?
Yeah.
And so, like, why that annoyed me? Like, why was Hopper and Joyce just doing the same thing? They did it to get like the crazy cuckoo scientist weird guy from season 2, which is really cool.
While I agree, the adults were figuring out the machine and the kids were finding the base.
Yeah, but
and then
then
those two halves joined together to make. But it's like, yeah, it's kind of like two sides of the same coin.
And in the end, they needed the help from the kids to get the code for the keys. So they didn't
Right.
do anything. They
Yeah.
literally just walked there, and then they were like, oh, what do we do now? And they found out they fought the Terminator guy. I thought that was very fun.
Yeah.
The Terminator guy was great. Like, have him in more. But, like, in my opinion, when you think about it, they were doing the same thing, and you could have done something else about that. Also, it was funny that they didn't care about their kids for like most.
That's something you said earlier about how this season wasn't sad. I hadn't really thought about it, but this is the first season where a child isn't missing or like in like peril.
Because nobody cares about Billy.
Well, because nobody cares about Billy because he's an adult and he's kind of a jerk. So it's like, yeah. So it gives it license to have that like fun '80s feel more so.
Yeah.
One thing where just again another structural thing that kind of was odd for me is, and I kind of realize it's part of that 80s trope sort of a thing, but like a little bit of there's an incongruency in Stranger Things where it wants to be a bunch of things at once, and that doesn't always work out because they use dramatic irony in the sense that like they show us, the show begins, if I'm not mistaken, with the Russian lab. We're like seeing this. We're assuming at the time, oh, Russia's doing this in Russia, whatever. But like the show always shows us, the audience, what's happening. So dramatic irony is that like we know it's the Russians. We know the monster is turning these people into body snatchers or pod people. Like, we know these things, and to a certain extent, it's a little weird, and maybe it impacts my sense of the pacing to be watching a mystery where the characters are trying to figure out a bunch of stuff that we already know.
Well, that's I think
Yeah.
I think that's kind of a horror mystery trope that I think they were playing it with, because I think I can't like name one right now, but you have movies like Silence of the Lambs where you know already who's behind stuff, and the tenseness comes from how is this character gonna do this?
Right.
Like, so the horror doesn't come from boo, I scared you. It's like you sit there like they have to do this or not.
Yeah.
So maybe they were going for that, where it's like, okay, we're not gonna have them. I mean, Nancy Drew. I was going to say they're not gonna Nancy Drew it,
Yeah.
but that's funny because
Yeah.
I got a whole problem with Nancy in this thing. Can I say something about Nancy?
Yeah, sure.
So there's a trope in movies and shows that I hate, and it is like female who wants to be a journalist or female journalists in movies, because there are so many times where they put a female character into doing that, and that's all they do, with maybe a love interest on the side. And now I thought about it and I wrote it down, the movies that have that. So most recently, Detective Pikachu has the same thing. You have a girl, all she's there for is, I'm gonna crack the story wide open, and like that's all she cares about. Then you had Godzilla from '98, same thing. She did everything she could to get the story. How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. It's a weird romantic comedy, but still it's the same thing. Newsroom, House of Cards, 13-0-30, Lois Lane also won. It's this weird trope that I don't know why exists, but it's just this woman who like I'm gonna fight them all and be the greatest journalist in the world, and then maybe
And against
like
men who don't believe in her, too.
which is fine, but like, couldn't Nancy have something more? What about the rest of her family? Shouldn't she, care about Mike or her mom, or like she kind of just that's the only thing she was doing throughout the entire thing. Like she's gonna be a journalist. And
Well,
it's like, have her do something else. Like, why is she...
It's funny because season 1 focused on the familial relationship so
Yeah.
much, and this one focuses on the romances between the characters. I forgot Jonathan was Will's brother. I forgot.
Well, that's why I was having before we started, I had to ask you what was Will's older brother's name? That's Nancy's boy. That's all I know.
Yeah,
Nancy's
yeah, it's
boyfriend.
Nancy's
Because Jonathan.
His
Byers,
name
'cause
is Nancy's
going
boyfriend.
From so integral in the first season,
to literally not mattering at
to
all.
being I'm just here to be
Nancy's boyfriend.
And you know what I yes, it is unfortunate that they couldn't think of a better role for Nancy to fill.
Yeah.
I also think it's a byproduct of this kind of ballooning cast of
Yeah,
characters
too many.
that they had a little too many to deal with. And I think that also might have affected the whole Hopper Joyce and the Russian scientist arc versus
what are they gonna do?
Robin and Steve trying to and Dustin and Erica trying to well, we got to give them something to do. And
Exactly.
it's well, obviously the chemistry between Steve and Dustin and Robin was especially Robin, Steve
Robin
Harrington
is the greatest
I was
thing that ever happened.
we're definitely getting more, and we better get more. I was yes, I love this group. It's actually becoming my favorite little group is them.
Steve, Robin, Dustin, and Erica. Yeah, Goaty.
And I also point out too, I saw some people get having some concerns about Erica's portrayal as well. It's kind of being the boisterous, black character. But at the end, it was kind of nice how they welcomed her with the donations from Will's old collection of D&D books, giving her that hey, Dustin calling her out, listen, I know you're putting on this front, but deep down you're a nerd like all of us. And then accepting her and welcoming her in at the end was hey, back in that time period, it was not cool to be a nerd. And so you had to stick together and be accommodating of each other. Whereas now you see so many different factions, nerds and stuff, and they hate on each other, whatever. There's a lot of stuff like that. But it was a nice kind of reminder of at one point, this is how it was. You were made fun of. You were the subject of ridicule. And I kind of like that moment of it doesn't matter who you are, we are accepting because we have this common interest and we have this bond.
I mean, I think that still happens. I mean, now that you
it still
say
does happen.
What it makes me think about, I mean, I mentioned it again, but Ready Player One is about gatekeeping, right? Who knows the most, and if you know the most, you are the best nerd, and you deserve all the nerd stuff, and people who don't know all the trivia, whatever, isn't a nerd. And when you say that now, that actually feels really cool because she didn't, she was welcomed into a community when now in the nerd community, there's so much gatekeeping that was a very cool maybe comment on that. Like, you know, like the you can come into something without knowing anything.
Yeah.
And because people around you don't teach you or whatever, and it's still going to be cool.
And also, I think like what Stranger Things at least attempts is to play the tropes as they are for themselves, but also to subvert the tropes and comment on the tropes that it's doing while still doing them. Yeah, like Robin being gay, for example. But like Erica, I think at first and in season 2, kind of exclusively, I don't really remember, but they just play her as the sassy little sister character.
There you go.
And then that's how she starts in this. But then you realize, like, oh, okay, this kid's like, at first you're just like, okay, she's got street smarts. And you're like, okay, that's another kind of trope. But then you find out, like, oh, no, she's just smart.
Yeah.
Like, actually really smart. And, like, that's where it subverts that, I think, a little bit, where it's... Because, like, at first there were a couple of moments, I mean, I don't know what you thought of it, but I was like, oh, are we getting stereotypy here? But then I was like, no, she's, like, actually, like, a really funny, smart person. And I thought she was fun, you know.
Yeah.
She's definitely, like, a little sass pot. But that's like more the little sister. Yeah, I don't know what sass pot is.
Yeah.
But she's sassy.
I think it was just, you know, the queen bee of the team, and you have to hold up a certain front.
That's
So
exactly.
I think they did that really well. And I don't know, like, I think when it comes to like issues of race and stuff, obviously I'm not going to speak on behalf of every person of color in the world, but you know, I think they were doing a really good job. I mean, the 80s trope would have been for Lucas to do nothing.
Right, or die.
Yeah, or die. And I think it was cool that they actually had him do something, this kind of something. But yeah, the problem is they have too many people. And Millie Bobby Brown is like the star, and so they have to have her do all the things. When I personally like Will the most, he just wants to play D&D.
And is gay,
Will.
baby?
I hope so.
That, yeah.
I think it would be cool.
Was Mike saying you don't like girls just because you're into D&D, or was he?
Yeah, I think it was meant to be read however you want to read that scene, because I mean that's how it was in the 80s. It's like you can't really come out like that, really, because you know everyone was joking and using slurs as like replacements for like stupid and stuff, and it's like
it's a good thing they don't actually talk like people talked in the 80s.
Yeah, they kind of like gloss over that aspect of how people talk back then, but at the same time, it's
remember
we're still like he goes we're still friends and stuff, and like listen, like the message like you're our friend and stuff, but like I liked Will's message is that like he has gone through so much trauma over like the past 2 seasons, and he like I read it as like I read some other people's take on it, and I completely agreed with them, is that Will just wanted to return to a sense of normalcy with his group. He had his friends back, they're all getting reunited, and once again they're being like, so this nice summer they were supposed to have together, they're being pulled apart. They're like Lucas and Mike are caught up and they're like girlfriends, and they want to go. He's like, you're ignoring me. Like, hi, I want to, like, can we play games and stuff? And, like, it was a little sad, but also, like, it was good to see someone have that perspective that, because, they've gone through so much. That's how they would be. They're just like, please, like, guys, like, help me out here. Like, just, and, like, Mike's frustration in that scene, I was like, I think he got it in that moment. Like, he kind of spoke first before he thought, and then he realized, oh, you know, like, that's not what I meant. Dude, like, I get it. You've gone through some shit, but like also understand like shit's going on, and like in the end they're like, we'd love, like, you know, I love playing with you and stuff, like it would be you're irreplaceable. And I like that message about their friendship.
It makes sense that Will would have Arrested Development because he basically was gone for 2 summers, like 2 years, like, or whatever, however period of time it was.
I also like the portrayal of that one person in the friend group who doesn't have a boy or girlfriend. I think that's great, but like in movies that often happens, and it's often like, oh, the really awkward one who will never have a chance in life, or they grow up to be like a billionaire, whatever. This is just a normal, like, sometimes you're gonna be the last one, and like that's gonna whatever. But I mean, I always liked his character. I think he's the most interesting. I hope that if it is the case that he's gay, that they don't J.K. Rowling the entire thing, and like nothing ever happens. Same with Robin, like they just like say it and like, ooh, diversity.
We got the cred,
and then it's like nothing's gonna ever happen ever.
Yeah, they did that, and there's also I think, in my opinion, there's a third plot line between crazy conspiracy guy who teams up with Hopper and Joyce, and
Alexei?
They kept calling Smirnoff.
Yeah, I was kind of like, are these two vibing on each other?
Like, it was either like they were like, I either took it as like the guy had been so isolated. I forget his name, the paranoid guy who's from the from past.
We called his phone number.
Yeah,
we did
this morning.
Oh,
You
you
can
did?
call his
You
number.
can call his
is that
number,
a
and
message
it
and
has
stuff?
it has a message machine,
that's so
and he says
awesome.
he goes, Mom, if this is you, call back between 5 and 6 p.m. as discussed. Joyce, if this is you, I have some new information. Not saying it's a good thing or a bad thing, but it's something I want to tell you, which
pretty
is
great.
interesting. And I'm like, okay, maybe he got wind that Hopper's still in Russia or something and not
I mean,
dead.
Hopper's alive.
Hopper's got
Well,
Here's the thing.
But then he says, if it's anybody else, you're a loser. Stop calling. Basically, like,
Yeah, I took it either he was such a loner. If you're not isolated from human contact and you
Yeah.
finally share a bond,
Yeah.
you'd be that. But at the same time, there's something it could totally be that. Maybe that that's how he was and stuff. And
Yeah.
he finally gets a chance to express it. It could have been both. It doesn't have to be one or the other.
Yeah.
And it was really touching when Alexei dies and he's he's really torn up over it. Whereas Joyce is
Yeah.
oh, that's sad, but I gotta keep going. We gotta stop Terminator guy from killing Hopper and
yeah.
Also, it's really sad. The last thing he heard was a woodpecker laugh.
Oh yeah.
That's what I thought about in retrospect. That's the last thing he heard. No, can we just talk about deaths for a second?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Because
That's what
there's
I was
one-
gonna talk about,
There's
right.
one thing that I don't like about this show is that they just write people to die in the most obvious way possible.
Okay.
That's
and
what
they've done
yeah.
that ever since the first season. They did it with Bob, they did it with Billy, they did it with Lexi. You just know right away that everything they're doing right now, and that's also why you kind of know that Hopper is not gonna die. He's not dead. That's why when I first got into
Well, and
season
even
3,
if he is, they didn't do it in a satisfying way where
Yeah.
I was gonna say this too, is the show doesn't have claws. Stranger Things, and maybe that's okay. Not every show has to be Breaking Bad or Game of Thrones or whatever, but the 9 scenes where the monster goes up to someone and goes rah right into their face and then doesn't eat them for some
Yeah.
reason.
Plot armor.
Nancy and maybe also Jonathan should have just died in the hospital.
Yeah,
Because
it's
why not?
also 80s tropes or
Yeah.
horror movie tropes. So it's we got to make it dramatic and stuff, but the last minute you're saved.
Or
it's
when
cheesy,
Bobby
but-
or when Billy was choking Millie Bobby Brown, for a second I was like,
Oh.
I was like, dude, if they kill Millie Bobby Brown right now, this show is amazing.
But that was
Yeah.
because that was so dramatic.
and then
because-
they didn't, and it's
yeah,
okay, this show is
11 That was
pansy.
just so powerful. It's
Yeah.
wait, someone can actually stand up to her. Whoa,
Yeah.
that was a big deal. That was someone pulling a trigger in The Wire or something. It's
But also,
whoa, it matters.
And I
Also-
know that's not the vibe of the show, and it would change everything. But the stakes would have been crazy raised then. You
Yeah.
know?
Also, I thought it was funny that when Max cries over the body of her dead brother, Millie Bob Brown was like, "It's okay," and I'm like, "Is it though?" But here, the thing is, before I started watching it, I was like, I think Steve's gonna die. I think that would be a good character for him to go because he's loved,
wrecked me.
and it would be a natural. But then Robin came in. I'm like, oh, it's not gonna happen. They are so obvious with who is gonna survive so early on in every. They're afraid of creating a connection that that they would need each other in some sort of level, and then having something happen. With Bob, it was okay. Sean Astin is lovable and they have a nice relationship, but he hasn't done anything where it's if he dies, a lot of things will change. The only thing that changed is Joyce is going to be sad, and she was sad for 2 minutes, but whatever.
Yeah, I
That's
thought
a
that was
whole
gonna
other
go.
thing.
Yeah, I thought that plot was gonna go a lot longer.
But it's
Yeah.
I liked that they at least had her be sad about
Yeah.
Bob.
yeah, they
Yeah,
didn't completely
Because
ignore it.
they
That
could have
would've
just
been- yeah.
completely moved forward and yeah.
Let's just start with the romance with Hopper immediately.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I
Yeah.
mean, it's Billy had no family except for Max. He's easy to just let go.
Who?
And Billy,
Who's Max?
Well,
Oh,
his
Max.
sister.
Mad Max.
Billy. Yeah, sorry. Eleven's real name being Bobby.
Yeah, I
Millie
see
Bobby.
that. I
Millie
know.
Bobby. I keep getting confused.
Yeah. I mean, same with Alexei. It's okay, he's turning likable. Something's gonna happen to him. 100 is gonna
Oh
happen.
yeah, especially when they made
Yeah.
when Hopper made the point about he's not going back, and it worked
Yeah.
out. It's
Yeah.
oh yeah, he's
Uh-oh.
that confirmed it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But real quick, going back to Hopper though, I do feel at least within the show rules, they played fair in making it clear about whether he was gonna die, whether he died or not in that scene.
Yeah.
You don't have that opening shot of everyone getting liquefied into
Right,
puddles
right,
of
right.
thing, and then in the end, seeing the random people, Russian people, run out to observe it exploding, and they also die, and then you see that camera shot right on where Hopper was, and nothing there. It's Well,
But they didn't show his. They showed the other guy's
and
bodies
they don't
getting
show
vaporized.
Him. Oh yeah,
right.
they don't show him
Yeah.
his remains at all. So it's like that's a movie trope right there.
Yeah,
You don't
that's
show
a
it.
trope.
Also in the after credits when they say they got an American.
Yeah.
But that isn't. So here's the thing.
It could be the crazy scientist guy.
It could be Dr. Brenner.
Yeah.
The white
Which
hair
one's that?
surrogate father of L11.
Oh, is he still around in season 2? I thought
Yeah.
she killed him.
No.
No,
He came-
he's like.
I mean, I wasn't thinking about him. I was thinking about Glasses.
Oh, that one too. Yeah. I mean,
She speaks Russian.
But
Yeah.
it could be a multitude of people potentially. That's what I think they said the American because
Yeah.
obviously yes, maybe the Russians escaping saw him, captured him, like, oh, you did this to us, we're taking you with us.
Yeah.
Or I mean, there was a portal behind Hopper, and he's like, if he thinks it's gonna blow up, well,
He
screw it,
ran into
I'm
the-
jumping
yeah.
through.
I mean, that's the only reason why 11 lost her powers and her only motivation for getting them back. It's because they needed Hopper to die, and she could not go and find him because she lost her powers all of a sudden. And then that's going to be the motivation for season 4 is I need to find my powers so I can find my dad. Like, that's
rough
gonna
news.
be
We
the-
were just talking about this beforehand.
Yeah.
Rough news. I think that the New Mutants are coming back in season 4 because she's gonna have to go find her friends to
Oh,
teach
yeah.
Like
her
that's
how
a
to.
possible angle that they could explore. For
Also,
her
they're
getting her
moving.
powers
Are they
back.
moving to that city? Who knows?
Oh, yeah, they're moving.
Where was that?
Joyce
Chicago
and
or
Elle
wherever
and,
that.
Yeah, I don't
Mike?
remember. I forget what city. And Mike, what city? No, Will. Sorry.
Or
Will,
Will
Jonathan,
and Jonathan, yeah.
Will, Jonathan, Joyce. And
Yeah,
I guess they give her a
Spider-Man.
new name. They give her Elle's name is now Jane. I guess that was what they said at the end.
Jane Doe or something.
I don't know if it's Jane Doe or if they could call her Joyce or Jane. Jane Byers to enroll her or something.
Oh, weird.
I read something about. Maybe it's wrong, but anyway, point is, yeah, they could be moving to a city, which could be the city where those kids were hanging out, and
They're moving to Russia.
They reconnect. Well, here's the thing. Like, listen, go with me on this. Sorry to jump ahead to like what could potentially happen. We're talking about the obvious here. Obviously, if Hopper, let's say Hopper jumped into the Upside Down.
Yeah.
Like, how is he getting out?
Right.
And stuff. They close the portal on Hawkins. You either think, oh, Elle will somehow, since he's in there, have to get his powers to bring him out, or we've seen the Russians already doing something again in Russia. They
Yeah.
brought the Demogorgon back from presumably U.S.
Also, how is that Demogorgon still alive if the portal's closed and that kills
So
everything?
maybe there's a portal open there. They finally figured out a way because they opened
Well,
the one
that's a
in
mind
Hawkins.
flyer, right?
Oh, yeah.
The mind flyer is still
Flare.
alive. Flavor?
Flare.
Flare? Flavor?
Yeah.
Flyer?
Flavor
Favor?
Flav.
Favor?
Mind Flavor Flav.
The shadow guy.
Yeah, the
Still
Mind
alive.
Flayer.
And so, like, I think, like, they need to go in there and stop him because all the monsters.
Yes.
He's just sending out a bunch of stuff.
I feel like
So,
season
yeah.
4 has to go. We have to visit
We have to
the
go
Upside
to
Down.
Upside Down.
If
Yeah.
that's the last season.
If it is, and Hopper being there, but like it also could be as easily Hopper finds a way out, and it's through the Russian portal.
Yeah.
Now he's in Russian custody, and maybe he finds out, oh, they have a Demogorgon. Oh, they have this plot. They're whatever it is. Maybe they're trying to use the Mind Flayer to take over the U.S. or something. It's like now he has to get back to Hawkins. Like there's
Yeah.
so many like obvious ways they can go with it. It's either, as he said, Elle's either gonna have to break him out
Yeah.
and regain her powers to do it, or Hopper gets out on his own on the Russian side, finds out some devious plan, and needs to get back to warn them all or something to bring it all together. But
Yeah.
And Paul Reiser's going to factor into
oh
it.
yeah, the lab, like
Yeah.
the company is coming. The Department of Energy people are coming back into play because I mean, a frickin' Russian base in the middle of the end of the Cold War was discovered in America. It's like. They don't keep that like top secret and stuff. Like,
Yeah.
what implications does that have? Like,
Right.
will that increase tensions? Will that be a
And
plot
we
point?
saw didn't we see all the like fake
Yes.
cover-up story stuff?
I want to talk
Yeah.
about that real quick. So you're talking about like predictable deaths. I want to go on with death again. The fact that this town kind of glosses over 30 plus people dying, the mall being burnt down, all these things, just disastrous things have been happening, especially in this season, and life goes on almost as like normal in the
Yeah.
3-month time skip at the end. It's a little strange that things aren't like more like look
Yeah.
at like what we are seeing in it with Derry and stuff, like how it's been affected by the deaths. Like it's clear that things are wrong there and like trying to cover up. Like they don't even try and go for that, where it's like a cover up there. I mean,
Yeah.
the mayor being busted and stuff being corrupt. Like they don't even have that angle anymore. I hope season 4 maybe touches upon
Also,
that.
good to see Carrie Ellis.
Yes. I was just
Like when he
always
put the
nice.
paper down, I was like, "Wow, Carrie Ellis,
Yeah, so nice to see that.
looking all right."
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Got Robin Hood Men in Tights flashbacks. I was like, yay.
I would like to see them maybe touch upon that. Like this stuff's been going crazy in this
Yeah.
town? Like, what's
Well, I
how you
mean,
gonna address that?
isn't that kind of part of the trope though? Like, you know, in movies like Halloween and stuff, like a bunch
Right.
of kids die, nothing.
Right.
Like, it's not. It's just
That's
Like,
true.
pass-
Everything has to be the way it was at the start of the episode at the end.
Yeah,
you
now,
know?
now that you pointed out, like, I was
Yeah.
me even arguing that earlier. Like, yeah, I gotta,
No, but
like,
I mean, I
yeah.
get it because it would make sense in like how we, you know, make shows now or TV now. We always think about the bigger plot holes and like how would everything else react. But I think in the 80s, everything was so confined into this community and this thing and this, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, just yeah. I'm sad about Billy, but yeah.
Yeah, I have a few questions about characters in this. I'd really like to get some opinions on. We could start with Billy.
Yeah.
I also really want to know about. I want to know about how you felt how Billy was portrayed, how they handled Billy in this season, and I also want to get to like Hopper as well because Hopper.
Yeah, I've
like,
got some things to say on Hopper, but yeah, Billy was.
yeah, like, I know you wanted to talk about Billy.
So
yeah,
the sad thing about Billy, I mean, people who know me know I like a bad guy. I like a not like that. Well, whatever. He's not a villain, right? But
Yeah.
I like the bad guy getting a redemption somehow. I don't think he got it in this because first of all, they didn't spend any time with him before he became a monster, basically. So you had to remember he did bad stuff in the original.
Yes.
Secondly, his redemption basically
I
sacrificing
mean, yeah, they showed him
himself.
trying to like knowingly seducing a married woman. That was like the only thing he
Yeah,
did
and
in
that's
this.
like,
Yeah.
is that a bad guy? No, it's just like, okay, he's just, you know, a hot dude that all the
I mean, he could see they were thirsting. Yeah.
yeah, they were thirsty. But like, I just feel he didn't get a redemption because he wasn't himself, and like it wasn't earned. Why all of a sudden would he completely change? Couldn't we have spent some time in the beginning, seeing if, you know, he and Max left the abusive dad, or like we just had this sequence of the memories and like 11 being in there, but like does that justify all the stuff he actually did? And like just he didn't do anything. I wish we had time with him in the beginning, where not just walking around being a hot, you know, lifeguard, but like maybe something to show that like
Well, and
he
to the
changed
to
or
the
something.
credit of the actor,
Oh, he's
his
incredible.
performance,
Oh.
his performance, I thought was actually probably the strongest of anyone in this season.
Yep.
Like in his eyes, you could see that he
was there.
doesn't want to be doing the things he's doing.
Yep.
But that's the only thing really, besides a couple of little moments that maybe he was even faking it.
Yeah.
That were in the story of him being like, I don't really want to be doing this.
Mm-hmm.
More interplay of that would have been cool.
The Sano was like, yeah, that was such a good
Yeah.
scene. He was such a good actor, and I wish that maybe in the end, probably more in the beginning, there would have been somewhere where he had a bad moment, and then maybe escaping the Demogorgon or whatever mind flavor for a little while, where he could have a choice more so than right on the spot, like I'm kind of fighting it, and the only way for him to get out of me and save everybody, instead of having that, it's like I'm free of him. Now what do I do? And that would have been like heroic leaping of like, I'm gonna do this even though I am off the hook, basically.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
I was personally disappointed that his catharsis came through just Elle experiencing his memories, and that's what did it.
It just seemed
And-
kinda
and
random.
him, and then her like trying to like act like I'm emotionally like I can feel what you felt in those memories, so I'm gonna give you this moment of lucidity that you can now act of your
Also,
own
like-
It was
volition.
rushed.
I'm sorry, like, I don't
it
care
was-
how important a memory to you is. 7 feet probably wouldn't be the thing to say to make you remember. Like,
Yeah.
someone just saying 7 feet to you out of nowhere
was-
is in that situation isn't going to make you think, oh, when I was 8, I hit a wave that was 7 feet. Like, no, you're just going to say, what's 7 feet? What are you
Yeah.
talking
Yeah.
about?
Like it didn't even really. Yeah, it's like almost as bad as saying Martha right there.
Right.
It's like, who
Well, at
would you
least
say that name?
Martha's
Yeah.
like the
But,
mom's
yeah,
name.
that,
Like,
yeah, you got like
Or
they had
like-
some more meaning there. That
Yeah.
even as if it was that was poorly executed. Where this is, it could have been well executed, but like the background behind it was kind of like not really that all there.
yeah.
Can you
And-
just imagine if they spent that dumb episode in season 2 where Elle went to the city on like the relationship between Billy and Max and their like
Oh, yeah.
parents, and like that would have been such a cool episode of like you're introducing these two very cool characters, and what are they now? Max is the tomboy who teaches Elle to have fun, and Billy is just hot lifeguard dude,
What?
and like he's kind of a douchebag in the second one. Kind of, we don't know if he's racist or if he just doesn't like boys because his dad is abusive.
Well, yeah. So this is a weird thing.
like that I wish they would like explore.
Yeah,
it,
did
like,
did I read that wrong at the end of season 2? I thought there was a little bit of like self-hate in that he actually might be bi. Like I thought
Yeah,
there was a
we don't
moment.
know. We
Okay,
don't
did I
know.
read that wrong?
We don't know.
I thought
been.
like he was just like so angry with Steve and stuff. Like I thought there was a moment there where he's like, I was like, I feel like he's just like self-hating because he's like, I feel like something for you and like, but like
Right.
I've been beaten into me that no, like you have to be like this. Like his dad was abusive and told
Yeah.
him like you need to be like this, and
I
maybe that was
mean-
part of it. Or it was just like it was just a male
Yeah.
competition thing where it's like I just hate you because
Well,
you're
that's
another
that's
like
the
an
thing
alpha
is like
male.
it's another one of those kind of like it's just the trope, and in this case, I don't really think it goes in the show. I don't know that they really executed it that well in this instance. That it
Yeah.
like went too much deeper than that.
Yeah, that's the problem. And
it's
as
just
you
like
were
oh,
saying,
the dad hits him.
I didn't get any of that at the
Yeah.
beginning of the season. It
Yeah.
was taken away from me too soon because he is the catalyst
Yeah.
for Mind Flayer plotline. It's the ultimate villain of this season. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh well, I was hoping. I assumed midway through the season they're gonna break Billy free, right? And then we're gonna get like some development with him. And it's
Right.
like, no. I was like, okay,
Yeah.
so this is what we're like. All right, so Billy's gonna die in the end, I guess, because all the other flayed people die. So I'm like, yeah, he's dying, and we're not getting anything from this.
Well, and it
character.
was
It's, like, a
weird
little
too because
disappointing.
like the rules of the world were a little muddy this season. I think like because the gate opened and then it closed, and then the Russians were still trying, and the Mind Flayers just keeps getting stronger, and then like all the other bodies go back into the Mind Flayer, but Billy doesn't. So it's like okay, so Billy's like the figurehead of this
I mean,
thing,
he's
but
the
like
host.
well, but he's not though. He's like not the host because
I
the
think
big
he's-
monster is the host. That's the thing. It's like unclear.
Well, he is the reason, like, you know, when they drive and the big monster's following the car, and then they do that because Billy still thinks Elle is in the car, and then he realizes Elle is not in the car. That's when the monster turns around.
Right.
Like, I had thought about it. So technically, I think Billy is still the host. This is just another monster that's like the result of him gathering all these people.
Right.
He also was the
Okay.
only one who had the power to like do like the telekinesis stuff, like telepathic stuff, like connecting to L. Like I could see where you are
Yeah, I
now.
see where you
Everyone
are
knows.
now.
Like I
Yeah.
think he was kind of endued with those powers
Okay,
of the
yeah.
Mind Flayer as being
Sure,
like
sure.
the prime
Yeah.
host, essentially.
So
Yeah.
he's really the Mind Flayer, kind of, and the
I think it's the Mind
monster's
Flayers incarnate in their world because the prime Mind
Yeah.
Flayer Prime's essence or whatever body is still in the Upside Down,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
when
yeah.
they open the portal like, for the first time in Hawkins, when it's like reopened, you see like the dust spinning up. That's like it trying to take form
Trying,
again,
yeah.
and it immediately needs someone, and it's like Billy, come to me, and then like
Yeah.
he executes its desire to like, you know, bring others into my like army and stuff, like feed them fertilizer, bleach and stuff, because that like feeds me and stuff, and like powers me in them, and then they're gonna like turn into like me, this monster form.
I
of
did
me.
Yeah.
like that all those people
Oh yeah,
just
they did.
died.
They died.
Like I was like, wow, that girl's entire family's gone. Like
oh yeah,
Heather and her parents,
the head
and
of
it's
the
just like.
the paper. And
Like at
the
least
daughter,
that had
and,
some
and the
stakes, but it's
mom.
like we didn't care about any of those
I mean-
people, so it doesn't really matter. But
Now that I think about it, you know, from like a story writing perspective, Billy is the protagonist in this series, in this season. He's the one who drives everything forward. Like everything that he chooses, everyone else is affected by in some shape or form. And if they'd written that with that in mind, instead of
if they Thanos'd it,
if they Thanos it, maybe this would have been a really good season where
he's
everybody
a
else
catalyst
is
for
reacting.
sure,
Because he
yeah.
is the catalyst. The Russians are kind of, you know, working with like what is happening with him and everything else. Like everything he does and like how, I mean, technically I guess it's the Mind Flayer, but it is him as in human form. Everything that he does changes things, especially in like the later half, which is the better half of the season.
oh for sure.
Where he like when he sees Elle, everything changes where he is. I think if they Thanos'd it instead of focusing on Billy, Millie, Bobby,
yeah,
I loved the whole coming of age thing, but maybe if they focused on that instead, as he is the one who's gonna do everything that changes everything, instead of Elle's gonna use her cool magic powers, and then they're gonna escape or whatever. Maybe him fighting with something going on inside his head, and us actually seeing that somehow, and that's why his barriers broke, and that's why Elle managed to. So it's like we were watching him, not cheering him on, but he is the one who we want to succeed in a way, kind of with Thanos, right?
Yeah.
We're following Thanos, and like, will he do it or not? That's the hero we're following.
Whereas, yeah, in this, it's just like every time we went to Billy, it's just like, okay, like factual update as to what the bad guys are doing, but it
Yeah.
like doesn't matter. Yeah,
but it
you're
would have
just
been
like,
really
oh, okay.
cool, I
Yeah.
would argue, if they did Thanos
yeah.
it. So like,
Yeah, that would be interesting.
instead of just or just here the funny thing is, like, I thought about it. I feel bad for Will because he was basically the Cersei of the last season, where like all he did was this. I feel something. He's here. It was like when Cersei was just standing drinking
was
wine
like
on
a
the lake.
tool.
She was
Yeah.
just standing there like, oh, stuff is happening with my city. And like that was Will. He was just like, oh my God, someone's here. Oh my God. And then it said, can we play D&D, guys? Can we play D&D? I'm feeling something. He's here. D&D though.
But his acting, I thought, was good.
Yeah.
I love the actor.
Some of the other kids like seemed like they were like trying a little too hard.
Mike
Sometimes.
was
Mike's,
Mike was trying a-
Mike's,
yeah.
yeah.
Which is weird because Finn is such a good actor. I think just bad direction. I think they just
Yeah.
made him.
I
do
think
too
that it was
much.
tonally like the performances were a little tonally inconsistent with each other. Like some people were playing it like it was a crazy zany 80s comedy. Other people were playing it like it was a really serious body horror thing, and other people were trying to be somewhere in between, or like a spy thriller kind of thing. And it was like, yeah, just sort of like I wanted them to have a cohesive voice sort of throughout the whole thing,
Yeah.
while still, doing all those things. Because I mean, it's not horror anymore. It never really
It's not
was.
sci-fi
But like,
either.
Yeah, the first
Yeah.
season was
I
pretty
mean,
much the only one that had that.
I
like,
think they should
vibe
lean. I
going
think
for
they
it.
should almost lean like more into a vibe or something. I don't know.
I wonder if that has something to do with the fact that even though when it first came out, it was like, R-rated, made for adults thing, now a lot of younger people watch it.
Was it TVMA when it came out?
I don't know,
I was trying to
but it
remember that.
wasn't made for kids. It was just like, we're going to create nostalgia by having the audience watch themselves, basically, as kids experiencing something. But then I think since they're young actors, a lot of young people naturally
Yeah.
go to it. And so I wonder if that has changed, the goriness or scare. Because, like, the first one is, like, it's a scary one. Just because of the subject matter of a child going missing and everything that happened to Will was pretty traumatic.
And Barb.
And Barb, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, there were more traumatic things happening, and here it was just kind of, yeah, they had deaths, but were they impactful? And even the most impactful one, Hopper, wasn't impactful because, A, we kind of know he's going to survive. Also, they did it in a very nice way. Like, imagine if he just got stabbed by one of the Russian people. That would have been, like, shocking. And I think everybody would be like, oh, I mean, we felt that. Instead, it was like, yeah, he had a wonderful, I mean, that last letter was like, I cried because it was real emotional. I don't know why it just like hit me in like an insane way, but it, you just know that it's not going to be the end because he is the Daryl from The Walking Dead of Stranger Things, where he's going to fake die like all the time. But he's
Well,
a
that's
fan
why.
favorite.
That's part of why I hope the next season is the last, because then they could take chances, or maybe if they write 4 and 5 at the same time and 5 is the last, whatever. But like, I think it would be awesome if they knew where the ending was and didn't have to save anything for later. Like that's the main reason they didn't let any of the kids die or any of the other characters die, is because it's like, well, these characters are too important. We need them for the later seasons. And if this show has to go on forever and ever, they can't start killing people off.
Yeah.
Whereas, yeah, if it's going to have an ending, they could kill Millie Bobby Brown or Mike or whoever. And, like, it would be shocking and crazy.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't think they will, though.
I mean, I don't think
They'll
they
kill
will either.
Lucas.
I don't think they will.
If any. If any. No, I think, but from what I can remember, this might be wrong. They just wanted one season originally, right?
Probably they only assumed they would
said
get
the,
one.
They assumed or whatever.
the Duffer Brothers. I
Yeah.
think they said they obviously didn't know how successful it'd be, so they wrote it, I think, so that season 1 could be like all there was.
Yeah.
But I think they've gone on record to say they had things planned out for 4 seasons worth.
Okay.
So I think if it goes beyond next season, like,
Then we're beyond the pale.
yeah, unless they like decide to flesh out a few things, like, yeah,
Yeah.
if season 4, I could see season 4 being the end. They could
Yeah.
probably wrap it up.
Yep.
I could see it's a victim of its own success. And they want to go to season 5, but if they're like, "Hey, we're doing multiple seasons," I'm like, I'm gonna be really worried.
They're gonna
I think
go
what
down
they should
French
do-
Alley.
Yeah, I
Well,
don't.
what
I don't
they-
think this story stands up to having like
No.
too many more seasons.
I
like
think if
1 or 2 at
Netflix
most.
if Netflix wants more, what you do is you do a spin-off. So you have a season 4, and then you do Robin and Steve working at the video store as its own series.
Oh my God, it was so much fun.
And they get into weird hijinks that maybe even aren't supernatural all the time.
Yeah,
That'd be
love
amazing.
that. I love the buddy comedy. I think they tried doing that when Hopper and Joyce, but it kind of failed because of the subject matter. And when the buddy comedy kind of was with Steve and Co, like they were the perfect buddy comedy / mystery hunters / also in serious trouble.
Yeah.
They were like, I don't know why I thought of Rush Hour, the first thing that came to mind, but like they were doing that perfectly fine. And that's the 80s trope, and that fulfilled. But like they felt they had to do something with Hopper and Joyce. I think it would be funny if they were just trying to have a date and it never worked out, and then finally they were like, maybe we should start worrying about our kids.
Well,
like,
I mean that you mentioned Hopper, and like I think Hopper. I was following Hopper's thread for the first 3 or 4 episodes. I don't remember specifically the moment, but like after he got stood up at the date, I was like, okay. And the scene when Joyce comes to the house and she was like, I was at Scott's house doing science stuff. Like that scene worked. But then the rest of the series for Hopper's character, I think, fell apart for me because it was like, I completely lost the thread. They didn't have any romantic chemistry at all. Yeah. At all. And like, especially in the car when they were just yelling at each other, I'm like, okay, so they hate each other now, and that's the story, and that was interesting to me. But then Conspiracy Guy was like, you two should just have sex already, and I was like, what? Is that the vibe the show was trying to convey? Because like I actually just thought they had gotten to know that they didn't like each other. That was what I was thinking.
I thought it would be cute, but...
Well, no, but I mean, like, just like Hopper went so off the rails into like angry and weird for the last half of the season, and it didn't gel for me. It didn't seem realistic.
Like I got the thread line of like a beginning, like, oh, I'm now a father. Oh, I'm having to deal with my daughter, like dating boys, and like the typical,
which was charming,
the stereotypical response of like, I'm threatening the boyfriend and stuff. It's like, okay, that obviously happened a lot back in, that was a thing, and like that's how it was, despite that's probably not how parents should act anymore, but that was pretty typical of an 80s father.
Well, and it made sense for his character. And being out of his depth.
And stuff like that, it followed all of that. Like, it completely followed that. It was, once the Joyce and him arc began, things, like, I felt he got more out of character. Things didn't feel believable anymore with him. Like, I got a little bit of a vibe of, like, okay, like, because they were telling me, oh, Conspiracy Guy and Alexei are laughing at them. Like, why aren't they just get it over with? I'm like, okay, this is a trope. Okay, yeah, maybe it's true. But the rest of their dynamic, it just wasn't there for me. And I was like,
well, and also like
I ended up not liking their arc. It was like Alexei and like the Conspiracy Guy were the more interesting part of that team, and I was like, that kind of stinks because Hopper was and Joyce were so integral. Like kind of what happened with Jonathan Byers' character as well, and like to an extent Nancy. It's like, we're still around. But we also can't kill them, so we gotta give them stuff.
It doesn't make sense. Like it made sense for Hopper to be exasperated and bewildered when he was out of his element with dealing with his daughter and dating, or like his adopted daughter. Like that made sense for him to be befuddled and angered and emotionally distraught. Whereas when they're off on a case trying to solve stuff, that's when he should be in his element and should be like focused. I mean, like, he's always been like a rough and tough, get it done, like beat up the mayor kind of guy. That part made sense to me, but like losing his cool about strawberry whatever, and I was just like, dude, this should be your wheelhouse, and you're like flying off the rails. I presume because you're mad about Joyce, whatever. I don't know. It was just weird.
I think what's interesting about, like, if you look at the first one and look at, like, what is the story about before Millie Bobby Brown became famous, it is about young boys growing up and whatever things happen to them, right? Horror happened to happen to them.
Yeah.
And I think that with the show, with the characters they introduced, like Billy, for example, this could have been a very interesting, like, a thing that would be very thematically interesting for them to explore would be masculinity, right? Because there are so many male characters in it in different ages and different ways that they express themselves. And I think they tried doing that a little bit with Billy in the second one, where it's like he tries to be tough. Turns out it's probably his dad that's trying to be like, you can't be, a sissy, like you can't be like, we're going to punch you and you're going to be a man. At the same time, you have Will, who has this loving mother who lets him be whoever he wants to be, and like, yeah, you get bullied, but you're better than that. And you have Jonathan, who's the same thing. And then you have, Mike with his dad, who's like kind of like whatever. They would have been a really cool, I don't know, masculinity could have been explored in a very cool way. Same with Hopper too. Like, how does his masculinity change with Elle? Does he become more loving? Like you saw it in the first episodes. We're like, oh, he's scared about his like daughter now because she's making out with a guy. Like, I think there were so many small things like that, which they might have been trying to make that point about like, masculinity is a lot of different things and how, the time period of the 80s influenced that in a very negative way. And, how, more like, contemporary way of commenting on it now, right? And I think Billy would have been the perfect character to show how, like, it came from his dad and how it, like, you earn, like, as you go down, like, Will and Jonathan had their mom as their main source of who they are as a guy, and you kind of see the difference. And, like, there were so many of those things that I would love to see because I think in a lot of coming-of-age movies, it's about women, and that's great, too, but it's about girls, and they fall in love with boys and makeup and, blah, 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 blah.
Which I thought they were doing more of this season with the girl side of things, which is good because it was kind of lacking in the other seasons.
But also, like,
like Max was actually a character in this season.
She was great. I loved her, but I also think that, with...
Sort of.
Yeah, I mean, but with, like, I just, in my heart, I feel like Will is the main character here. Like, it was his
Except
journey.
he's always kind of been an absentee, though. Like, he's missing in season 1. He's kind of, like, possessed and mentally gone in season 2.
Yeah. But, like, you know what I mean? Like, it was about the four...
I think they don't know what to do with Will.
Yeah, but
because they never made him a character.
Even if it's not Will's story, it was about the 4 boys in the basement playing D&D who then has to go on this big adventure. And I wish that, like, they would do something with that more than just, like, half-ass go into, like, they had, like, the nice moment between Nancy and her mom about, like, men at work being terrible to them and how, they have to, just deal with it. And that was heartbreaking, but very real and very realistic about, like, that's the world. Like, even though, she was like, I'm a journalist, I'm going to tell him that, whatever Nancy was doing. Nobody cares.
Well, I think... Oh, sorry.
No. It's just like, I guess my point is like that, the workplace with all these super toxic guys, they could have made a good point about that with Billy and how he... But instead, it was just like...
I think
whatever.
Kind of to that is like, I think what this season was trying to deal with was that part of coming of age when you have to move on. You have to let go of the past. You can't play D&D anymore. You're going to move out of town. Maybe this relationship isn't going to last because you're 8 and it doesn't matter what you do. I think that they were doing that by breaking up the friend groups a little in their little different storylines. Like, Dusty wasn't with them for the whole damn series.
Yeah.
And, like, or Dustin.
Better friends.
Yeah, well, but he and Steve are just more fun together, so it's, like, good. But
that's also, like, Steve became the inspiration for how Dustin is growing up, too, right? Like, that's a really cool thing of masculinity, too, where he's like, you got to fix your hair, but then he was like, I got a girl, I didn't fix my hair, she's perfect. And,
when Dustin was giving him...
Yeah.
That's why,
There's so many
I love so
cool
much
things.
about Steve. It's just like his transformation, because you like what you wanted to happen to Billy was what Steve went through. I'm the popular like jock type kid, but like now he's seeing like I realize I could have done things differently and I'd be in a better place in life. Like that lesson you have to learn. To like the whole thing you're told if you're not a cool kid, it's like, hey, just wait till you get older. They're the ones who are like not going to be successful. You're going to be the successful one. You'll pay off later in life, which is a kid that seems like forever and like that's something you just can't even fathom. And it's like it doesn't help with your misery right then and there.
Right.
But him seeing the other side of it that soon, it's like seeing that kind of transformation, but also through Dustin seeing like, hey, like you're cool. Like I like hanging out with you. Like this is fine. Like, and I don't care what other people think. And like that. He's still like, to me, is still like the best character in the show.
Agreed.
Like I really hope that they I think they realize it, and I hope they push even harder on it. I mean, the setup they do at the end of the season, it's like him and Robin still being together.
At the video store?
It's like
Friends.
you know that's gonna be a gold mine. Like that has to be.
The scene where Steve says he likes Robin, and then Robin has her "but I'm a cheerleader" moment, and says like, "Oh, but but then he doesn't get like." This is why Steve is such a great guy. Is like he doesn't get mad or defensive or offended. He's just like, and then they just start laughing, and they're still friends. Like, it
And
doesn't have to
that's-
change anything,
Yeah,
and
he
it's
realized
so
it didn't
great.
matter. It was like
And that is
Yeah.
like
great reaction.
going
yeah.
against expectation of
Yeah.
like, you know, we assume that either they're going to be together or like, oh, then they're never going to talk to each other again. Instead, it was like, oh, a boy and a girl can just be friends.
Right.
Right,
That's what I was
right,
gonna
right.
say.
And
like,
I love
that's-
that. That's so real. And I
yes.
think
Well,
it's,
and her performance then, when he was telling, like, confessing his like for her,
Yeah.
her face, like, she conveyed so much. I was like, oh, she's gay.
Yeah.
Like, just with her, like, pained expression, I was like, oh.
she got those acting skills from her
Yeah.
mom and dad.
Yeah, Ethan Hawke and Uma Thurman
Yep.
are her parents.
She looked just like Uma. No, I think it's I love what they did with Steve. Also, that great like line of how he becomes a man, and but that's like the thing. Like, just as I wish that the women in the show had more levels, because I do think they're lacking. You have Karen, who's kind of struggling with her husband, and that's like really interesting. But then like it's over real quick. Like, she just like, but then you have Nancy, where her whole character is I want to be a journalist, and it's so boring. And like, she had a little bit more in the first one where it's like, I have my friend, but I want to be popular, and like, I don't know what to do. Also, like, yeah, like Elle and Max, all they do is like, you know, dress in clothes, and I'm like, that's very shallow for like
It's-
expressing how to be, you know, a girl. They could have talked about, you know, being a toy boy.
Well, that's, I think,
What am I trying to say?
Tomboy?
Tomboy.
tomboy. I was like, I don't know what you're trying to say.
Like being a tomboy
yeah,
versus
for
like
Max, yeah.
maybe they could have had a moment
Yeah.
where Max is like, okay, I'm gonna teach you how to, you know, we're gonna try on new clothes, but you gotta understand that a lot of, you know, I'm not feminine, and they could have talked about that. Just as that was kind of lacking, they could have done so much with that. They didn't do much with the really toxic masculinity, except for just show it. The 80s was toxic.
Well,
Like,
and it's
you know.
it's weird because coming of age stories are hard. Because even in this, I was like, I like hit my limit of like early high school romance. Like by episode 1, I was like, okay, done with this now. Don't care about Mike and 11 kissing. Like, Hopper's reaction was cute, but it's like, we don't need to spend 2.5 episodes on this. And like them breaking up and like whatever. I'm like, it doesn't matter. So it's like it's hard to do. It's not impossible, but it's hard to do a coming of age story like that about those subjects and make it compelling, at least for me. And I think this season, yeah, it was sort of. My thing with Stranger Things is I feel like it always, like, I always enjoy watching it, but always part of me is like a little bit checked out because it always like almost gets there. All 3 seasons for me, but season 2 just like fell even shorter from the target. But like, I feel like Stranger Things, like, it gets close enough that it's still fun, but it doesn't get close enough that it's like a timeless classic. You know, like this one it's doing Die Hard, it's doing Terminator, it's doing all of these things, it's doing Back to the Future, it's doing also time travel, maybe season 4, who knows? But it's kind of hinted at a few times.
Yeah, I think
but
so. It's gonna be that.
but it's like, you know what I mean? It almost gets there, and I want it to. Like, I want to love Stranger Things. I want it to get there and be this
Right.
timeless classic. But where it stands right now is you watch it, you binge watch it the first couple of days it's out, and then you're kind of done. And
That's
you
a
don't
fair
need to
point.
think about it anymore.
You look forward to it more than you actually like
Right.
talk about it after.
Like,
Yeah.
basically, you just want to see Steve and Dustin and Robin.
Yeah.
In my case, like, that's
Oh,
all
me
I want to
too.
see. And like,
They're so fun. And Erica.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
just
it's just like, I don't know. The rest was,
I mean, I think it became less interesting when Elle became the focus. Just
Yeah.
because I like the I like the 4 boys on New Adventures and playing D&D. I still feel bad that Will can't play D&D anymore.
Well, now it's like, who knows? Because like half of the party has moved out of town, and
maybe
like,
you'll
what's
find new
gonna-
friends you can play D&D with. Yeah.
Yeah,
That'll be
there's
fun.
Have the
that,
next season start with a table, and then he puts down a Demogorgon, and he's got new friends.
And it's him and 3 girls playing
yeah,
D&D.
and we're all like, oh no, there's
Yeah.
4 more cast members, but
Yeah.
whatever.
yeah, a lot of that hinges on how that things wrap up in the
Yeah.
end.
Yeah.
On whether I can make that call. I do feel like season 1 for me is the one that for me achieved what you're getting at.
Sure.
Season 2 doesn't come close to, in
No,
my opinion, at
yeah,
all. Season 3 is definitely an improvement, but it didn't achieve that status. Parts of it did, like obviously, like, and Steven Rowan forever be that part and be like, that's the best part of season 3. Like, that's all you want to focus on. But I mean, they definitely have time to lead to something that pays off and further developments that can reach different highs. Like, I'm looking forward. I would like to see them explore the dynamic between Will and Elle being together now. Like, now you're like kind of like pseudo
Brother and
siblings.
sister, yeah.
Also, like, you get to like they can have their conversations together and explore different aspects of, growing up and as you said, coming of age in their own way now.
And they're the two with the most direct knowledge and experience with the Upside Down.
Being able to share their trauma together.
Yeah.
Like, you now have a way, like a person you can Will can actually talk to someone who really genuinely knows what you went through, and maybe you can have some kind of like reconciliation there and like come to terms with that. I'd also like to see Will and Jonathan's relationship come back into the, like, kind of like the foreground there, because season 1 that was a big angle to it, like Jonathan being torn over his brother, like the music track and stuff about like, here's my mixtape for you and stuff. It's pretty good music. Like, trying to show Will like, hey, there's like, other things out there you can like, just because like you just haven't been exposed to things yet. Don't worry, there's a whole world out there. Just him being like a big brother. I'd like to see that come back just a little bit, because him and Nancy isn't work. They got to figure something out with that too. Like,
I just had
a
a funny thought that would actually play into their little weird new family dynamic, because they've done Halloween, they've done 4th of July, summer vibes, Christmas.
Oh yeah, I think it's alluded to by like, Christmas, not the
like,
coming
because he
Christmas, but a
says
year
like,
later
we'll
Christmas.
see you at Christmas.
Yeah.
I think next season Christmas for sure.
Oh, yeah, I would wager the Christmas of '86 will be the holiday of '86 will be when the next one takes place. But that's a good point. Like, that is a a good setting for that, and a good way to explore more like family dynamics, because everyone's going to want to get together and you get to see those things. People
and
it
gives them an excuse to come back to town.
Yeah, it also gives it gives the biggest excuse for that too.
Because like
that was
that was the funny thing when Hopper was like trying to get Joyce not to move out of town. I'm like, Bees, you should all be moving out of this damn town. Get out! Get out!
Well, talk about time travel real quick. One thing I would not be opposed to, but it would completely break the mantra of being in the 80s, would be a time skip to they're all older. Like the kids growing up and something like, let's deal with like this, like things.
You mean back within a season, like It style, jumping back and forth?
Yeah, like season 4, or like let's say season 4 ends and like.
Wasn't that the plan?
I don't know.
It might have been.
I don't think so, but maybe I'm wrong.
I bet season 4 starts with someone watching Christmas Carol, or they're at a play or something of Christmas Carol, and they're dealing with the ghosts of Christmas present, past, future, and then like time travel becomes a thing.
I mean, I did see Back to the Future.
They saw Back to the Future,
so many times.
They put that one there.
Yeah.
Or maybe that scene you want, Ian and Sophia, where they put down a Demogorgon. You think it's Will, but it's like, what if it's the son or something? And it's like their kids, and it's like, oh, they're grown up. Oh my gosh, like where are we?
And
like,
you think the whole season would be grown up?
And be going back and forth.
Oh, and go back and forth.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because like
that'd
kids
be
are
wild.
too popular. They're not gonna.
Oh yeah.
No, yeah, they need those kids.
Yeah, they need
like
those
you want to
kids.
be like, well, how did they all like did they all drift apart and stuff, and like
I don't know about a time jump. That'd be crazy.
and like why they brought back, because like maybe it's been like 20 years and like Hopper showed up or something like 20 years later, like, but he's still the same age. Like, wait, what?
That'd be
Like,
cool.
what's
That'd
going
be cool.
on here?
Yeah, screw the kids. Just
There you go.
Winona Ryder in
they're-
age makeup.
They're not gonna do it.
Their
'cause
their
kids,
formula is like we advance a year, and like
Yeah.
what you think about, like A6, A7, A8, A9. At most, they're doing 4 more seasons. They really want to drag this out and ruin it. But
I mean-
They got to get to 89 so that they can start listening to Pretty Hate Machine, Nine Inch Nails, and get all
mean,
like
you know
industrial.
what I'm excited for next season, if it is 86 and
What?
then we can finally get Nintendo references
Yeah.
and stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
They haven't mentioned too many games though, have they?
There aren't any yet.
Yeah.
'Cause they
Really?
jump
It's
from,
I mean, like-
Atari.
stuff to
Yeah, I mean, like
Atari,
they went to the arcade, but like, yeah. I just, I lost my train of thought. What was I saying?
Before we were talking about like the
Time jump,
and
time
then
travel.
Hopper shows up.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Christmas.
First of all, like I know we've like talked a lot of like things we don't like. I enjoyed the show.
Yeah.
I had
It
a
is
lot
good.
of fun watching it.
It was fun.
yes.
The production design was perfect. Everyone looked great.
I just had a thought. Hopper shows up disguised as Santa Claus.
Oh my god!
And he just goes,
yes.
he's all like dirty. He's like trading places, Dan Aykroyd, like eating a fish on the subway. And he like shows up and he's just like, Joyce, we gotta get out of here. Sorry.
No,
I just had that thought
was
suddenly.
really
We
good.
just keep going on this. He comes back and he goes, "Hey, you got to come back. We wear Back to the Future." It's like, I'm out. No,
We gotta
I
get
mean, that
back
would
to
be
the
a way
future.
for
We have to go back, Kate.
that would be a way for the adult versions of. Oh, that's what I was gonna say. Like the
Okay.
thing that sucks about them shooting now is that kid actors are growing up so fast. That's why everything is so
Right.
rushed.
yeah.
And so I think I'm worried that the next season will be just as rushed because they have to like hurry up because they all look super old now.
Right.
And
Yeah, Lucas is like twice as.
yeah, like,
he's like twice
his
as
voice
big.
like dropped so low, and I was like,
When
whoa.
they did the flashback, I was like, whoa, these
Yeah.
kids have grown.
He came on the red carpet with like a mustache. I'm like, what the hell is happening? But
But still, like in my mind, I can't. Like when Mike and Elle were kissing in the beginning, I was like, how old are these kids? Like, what's happening? I thought they were like 12. Like, what's
They're
going
like-
on?
they're like-
but they're like 15 or something.
that's probably maybe just in real life.
In the story, I don't know how old they're supposed to be. I don't know.
They
When
said
do
in
kids start
middle
kissing?
school.
in the first season, I thought.
Yeah,
When
they
do
like,
kids
started-
start
didn't
dating
they
and kissing?
start-
I don't understand life.
13,
Did it-
14?
Oh wow. Okay.
Right?
When
I
you
don't know
start
about,
dating?
Don't people start dating like
I
traditionally
I mean,
like
I
in
was
teenage
way,
years?
I guess,
was way
yeah,
older.
I
but
guess.
It's just.
I mean, nothing serious. I'm talking like at
Oh,
school,
no.
you like, oh, we're dating, and you don't even see each other outside of school or something. Like,
I guess
remember,
it
like,
just it
kids
felt
saying,
like it was
oh.
weird to see like.
But like 16, I would say when you start driving
Yeah.
around 16, 17.
It's like seeing your
that's
little
when you
brother
do
kissing
real, I
someone.
think like serious dating.
little sister or something.
like high school.
Yeah.
I don't think middle school or like the middle, like, you know, early
Can't
teen
relate.
years
They
or
just
that.
grow up so fast. They just grow up so fast.
Yeah, it did,
already.
but I mean, visually, it was like they look a little young, and it's like, wow, that's
I think
intense.
I
but
like
okay.
I like the
Yeah.
fact that like they all look believably young enough. That
I mean, I think they're playing the ages that they
Well,
just
I think
are.
some of them
right?
are like 18 or whatever. But like
Oh,
you can,
really?
yeah, 17 or 18, I think is the oldest. But like you can,
Oh.
they could run except for their voices maybe. But like it's kind of the Harry Potter thing where like suddenly next year like they all
Yeah.
drop and you're like, whoa! Like year
Ron.
4, we were all like, what just
Yeah,
happened?
Ron shows up. He's like,
Ron
hey.
is, like,
Ron has
cracking there.
they all have long hair and they look real hot and you're like, what the hell just happened? And
Give
you're
me
all,
some
like,
fizzy lifting drink
Yeah, no,
or whatever.
but I like I enjoyed the show a lot. There's a lot of things. I want to comment on one thing though.
Oh yeah.
I think it was episode 6 or whatever, with the flashing lights. I did not enjoy that one in the hospital.
Okay.
When they run around.
Oh,
Nancy.
when the flare
Yeah.
is approaching and
I
they have
think-
flickering and stuff. Yeah.
I'm not photosensitive, but I'm also
Okay.
epileptic, and I think it was a very unnecessary scene, and a scene that happened in the middle of a show that's been very, friendly to most people. It's
It
not.
did have the warning before every episode.
Yeah, but I mean, like, it's a weird artistic thing to include that will automatically possibly alienate a bunch of your audience when throughout the thing it's been very nice. Like, it's been gory but not too gory. It's been scary but not too scary. It's been like a show for everyone, right? Everybody can enjoy it. Kind of like Breaking Bad. It's for everybody. There's a bit of violence. Sometimes you'd be like, whoa, but even for people who don't like violence, you're going to enjoy it. And I don't know. For me, it was just a very unnecessary use of strobe, and I hate when movies do that because, like, it's a hospital and you're running from crazy things. It could just be light or dark. You don't need to do these weird.
I think
Was
they
it
have
more
to
ex-
undergo testing though to make sure it's like not actually. Chris or somebody, I think, was it Chris? Someone maybe who works at Riot or something was telling me that like their stuff has to go through like it has to get like signed off on by like to not have a photosensitive like trigger or something, and it's
But
something
they're-
like that.
They're not good with that because, like, The
Yeah, I wonder.
Incredibles 2 came out and people had seizures.
Incredibles 2 was
and
yeah,
they knew about it. They
intense.
just didn't publicly
Yeah,
say, "Hey
that
guys."
was a weird one.
So I think it's and like I didn't expect that to happen mid-season of Stranger Things, which has always been a show where like, why would you?
Was it just because it was more excessive? Because unless I'm misremembering, I thought it was the sign of the mind flayer approaching as that light started to flicker. But maybe it was like the extent
the
of because
power-
finally it was
yeah.
indoor with a ton of lights and them alternating so fast. Maybe that was like excessive compared to
Yeah.
like a lamppost outside just doing it like.
Exactly, that's
So
the thing.
maybe
Like,
it's that's the
there-
only thing I can think
I mean, like
of.
the way you
I'm-
do it, because like I don't think you should not be allowed to have lights flashing ever, but like yeah, maybe flicker a little while and then blow out or something, and then just have
Exactly.
weird light or something.
Or
There are
emergency
different
lights
ways.
come on.
Emergency
'cause they,
lights
like,
come
went out
on.
or
Yeah, yeah,
something.
yeah.
I
or
think it would have
something.
been way scarier if the lights popped off and just like a green light or just a red light would be the things that happened. Like, and it lasted for so long. I mean, I didn't feel any issues with it, but I couldn't imagine like it sucks for a large amount of people.
Okay,
Like 1 in 20 people who will have epilepsy throughout their life to be like,
What was
oh,
that movie that we went to see that the main character had epilepsy and they were trying to trigger an epileptic seizure and you had to leave?
I don't remember. It was a
She
movie
had-
about a girl with epilepsy.
She had like brain powers.
yeah. There was
Oh,
this
what was the
girl
name
with,
of that movie?
I don't know, but
It's
like
her name, I think.
there was a photosensor
it's a
warning
cool
on the
movie.
front, and I was like, that's probably just fine. And then they literally did the test you do on people to see if they. And I was like, why?
And they
did
just
you
like
put this
show
in
the
a
full
movie?
test. I was like, wow.
I was like,
Okay.
oh, okay.
Well, they were really going all
It
in
was
on
just
that.
a very. It
Okay.
Was, I just want to put that out there because I think it's a very
That's fair.
unnecessary trope, and I think visually you can do a lot of cool things with lights that won't ruin it for people. And it's not just epileptics; people get headaches from strobe lights.
They were
There's so
definitely
many
Paul
ways to do it.
Greengrassing in the mall fight when they were out by that car too.
The
They
camera-
were greengrassing all over the place. I'm like, who directed this episode?
I love it. Cameraman.
Just that one episode, the camera is just like crazy.
The cameraman been looking into the strobe lights for too long. He's
Yeah.
like, oh,
Just
what's
like,
Yeah,
on
that was
here?
it. Yeah, it was like
We shot that
"Hey,
hospital
you weren't
scene,
lying.
where are you?"
This is what's going on here.
Yeah.
I do. Yeah, I want to say there's like a few positive things because overall, I said I did enjoy it. I thought it was better in season 2. I'm on the side of the fence that really liked. I don't care that it won for the most of the first stanza of the song. The whole never-ending story part where they're like, Dustin, do it, because like Susie knows what was it, Rand's
Planck's
constant. Thank you.
Yeah.
And you gotta say it to me. I'm like, oh, he's got to say I love you or something, and then he starts singing the theme of the
cute.
never-ending
I thought
story.
that was great. Yeah,
I'm
that
like,
was
this is
funny.
so good. But I saw some people like, oh, it goes on forever. Why didn't someone say like
It goes on forever on purpose to make it super awkward.
It's super awkward. And
be.
even like the conspiracy guy goes, "This is why I hate kids" or something.
Yeah,
Whatever.
yeah.
I was like,
And he's just, I love how everyone was just like, what? Why is this
it
still
was
happening?
So good.
It's because
Yeah.
it's campy. And
Yeah,
that's
it
what
was
I liked
funny.
about this
Love
season.
that. I love the mall fight, the Star Court battle with the mind flayers, like pseudo form or whatever, with all the the melted bodies come to into one, like using the firecrackers and stuff,
Yeah.
and like having to like make a noise, and like it's like, oh no, the tentacle thing is coming, like making like, and then like Lucas pulls out like the slingshot. I'm like, what are you? Oh, okay, because he's aiming at him, like he goes, I got this. I'm like, why is he so confident?
Why is he
and
so dumb?
Like, what
Yeah.
do you know that we don't know? And then
Yeah.
like, obviously, but like visually, like really good. I liked. I really liked just the interaction between. I mean, I already talked about Steve and Robin and stuff, but like I liked the mall stuff in general. Sorry, the pre-fight stuff. Like I saw some people complaining about like product placement excessive, but like the mall, like that's what a mall was. Like seeing those old logos again, like seeing them come back, I was like, yeah, like I like.
They
them
even
doing
had
that.
a warning about product placement in one of them. When Lucas was talking about new Coke.
Yeah.
The new Coke thing was dumb. I'll give you that. That was ridiculous. Like
Yeah.
that whole argument and like him using like the tagline as his I was like, okay, that's enough, bud. There.
But did they bring new Coke back in real life?
Yes, it's
they
out
did?
right now. That's why people are complaining
That's what I
about
thought.
it,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
it's
yeah.
like,
It's trash.
yeah, everyone's like, oh,
I don't know what it
God,
tastes like. I mean, I haven't had a soda in years, but like, I don't know what it tastes like. It's bad, I imagine.
I think it was
Any
had a
Coke
bad rap.
is good. Any Coke is great.
But like malls are dying, and
Yeah.
there might be a point where like this will be a thing of the completely the past. You can no
Yeah.
longer experience, and seeing that again about like in the start of its height of its rise during like the Reagan era of like
Yeah,
everything's
yeah.
like consumerism and stuff,
Yeah.
hyper consumerism. It's like, yeah, this is it. This nailed it. This nailed this feeling of it was cool to go to a mall and stuff and hang out
And like them figuring out the code and stuff, like that was all my favorite stuff. Like the Steve, Dustin, Robin storyline throughout the whole season was my favorite.
a
But
little
yeah.
bored of
Good.
you suck. Or
Yeah.
had
just
so
the
much
tormenting
fun.
him. Like I'm sorry. I just
I
can't sing enough praises of that.
Again, it was like with the other seasons, the kids I loved and cared about, the adults I did not care at all, basically, about what they were up to or what they were doing. It was the same with Joyce and Bob. Same with Joyce, just looking for like in the first one at least she was looking for her son and being all crazy, and that was kind of interesting. But like Hopper being a detective in the second one didn't really.
Well,
carry
now
on
they're
much.
like caricatures of themselves. Like the
Yeah.
kids are still true to themselves. I feel like more or less. But like Hopper and Joyce and Conspiracy Guy was always a caricature. But like
Yeah.
Hopper and Joyce weren't behaving in a realistic way. I feel like they were just caricatures of
I
themselves.
mean, to be fair, like David Harbour was preparing for his role in Hellboy. That's why he was angry all the time.
Yeah, just
a
letting it
joke.
out.
I mean, it probably wasn't, but
No.
it's a fun joke to make.
I
Just
don't
because
know.
whenever he got angry, I just thought about Hellboy.
Also, how did he get all ripped and then gain all that weight back? What
'Cause
order
he's like
did that
Christian
happen
Bale.
in?
He's like a Christian Bale guy. Just
Yeah,
some people can
I
just do
guess.
that
Jeez.
weird like thing that's just impossible. Maybe because he played Hellboy. I haven't even seen any Hellboy movie, and I just
The
Make
Golden
references to-
Army is the good one.
is it the second
That's
one?
the second of the Guillermo
del Toro
ones.
Yeah,
The
like, I
first
heard-
Guillermo I rewatched recently doesn't really hold
Okay,
up.
I haven't seen it in a while.
The
But,
Golden
like,
Army I recall holding up, but it's been a while.
The new one is was a disaster.
I
all
heard the new
around.
one
Like,
was
it had
bad.
no
I
point in
wanted to
existence,
see it,
but
and then I was like,
whatever.
oh boy,
The
no.
David Harbour one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, there it goes.
Maybe that's a signal to wrap this up there. Ian's like, all right, enough with that. But yeah, like, I enjoyed the story arc. I like that the Mind Flayer was working towards destroying and stopping L. Realizing L was the biggest roadblock to achieving its objective.
Yeah.
And actually had a good plot to like, I'm going to use misdirection with you. I'm creating like this like monster that can actually take you on and is powerful enough and challenge her. And like, at the end, she's without her powers. Like she's been through so much dealing with this threat that now like we talked about all these other threads that we like have theories about what's going to happen. Like Elle and her powers. Like I think that's like immediately where we're going to start with is that her coming to terms with I'm not this super powerful being anymore, and you're even more of a normal person. Like can she go full normal?
Yeah.
And and assimilate into like that lifestyle, or will she be like consumed by like I need to have this, I'm not me without these powers? I'm
Yeah.
kind of interested to see if they explore that dynamic of that was such a big part of her identity, and now like what is she gonna start yearning for like the lab people and stuff, like hey, like they might be where will she go? Will she go to some like will she go into a dark place like when she like what we said like when she tries to seek out her mutant friends,
Yeah,
like the
'cause
ex kids or whatever.
Yeah.
Like,
She have to
well,
close the door with her hand now.
Yeah.
It's like,
Oh, yeah, like,
What is she
Yeah.
gonna do?
and it'd be nice to see if like Will's the one who's like, no, it's okay.
Yeah.
Like we accept you. Like you don't need to be that to be you, Elle. Like I hope they explore that.
Yeah.
And I expect it to be like the big focal point of like the first episode or two of.
Or she doesn't have her powers at all until the very end, and she uses them in some
Yeah.
huge way,
That's
but
the
it
most-
kills
and
her.
then she sacrificed herself,
But
and
it
it's
kills
like a big
her.
moment. But then,
Literally,
like,
the most predictable thing.
Yeah,
is
that'd be the
like-
most predictable.
And
thing.
then
Give her back, she
at
saved
the very
me.
at the very
Yeah.
end, you see like Mike's little radio starts to like, and that's like the end of Stranger Things.
Yeah.
Hey, Duffers, call me up. I can help you write that script of yours. Yeah, no, I hope not. I hope it just
Yeah.
But like, yeah, it's
What
a
if
good,
Will
it's a
gets
good,
powers?
Yeah,
Maybe he's tied to the Mind Flayer.
'Cause
and
he's
stuff.
got the
Maybe.
and he doesn't do
Prickles.
this.
Yeah,
got
he doesn't
the
have the spider
prickles.
sense anymore. It's like I got something else.
He's got the Peter tingle.
I mean, he loves D&D,
Peter
so he's obviously the best.
Now
And
we're beginning our Spider-Man spoiler mode. Starting out.
also production design is like incredible and one of the best in TV. Just like
the production design, yeah, it was
Thought
really
the CG
good.
was actually pretty good. for-
Better than before.
Yes.
yes,
There were a
100%.
few
Definitely
that were
improvement.
like not up to snuff, really, but yeah, I think it was way
It was
better
an
than before.
improvement.
Yeah,
Definitely an improvement.
I think the hospital stuff was like the iffiest.
Hospital sucked.
The whole thing could
We
have
did
just
not
been
like
cut
the
out.
hospital here.
Also, Jake Busey, what were you in this for? Just to be a jerk man and then turn into goo? I guess.
He was extra. I was like,
He was too extra.
It was too much. I
They made
was
such
so
a big
awkward.
deal about that. I
They
was
were like, just show up and be Busey, I guess, and then just turn into goo. Which
hope-
is like, I appreciate the effort, like for the joke, I guess, but like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I also hope Nancy and Jonathan are not just journalists seeking the truth.
Or trying a long distance relationship, that's tedious. Tedious.
Yeah.
I hope they're not in the next They don't need. They have no reason to be there. They could
That's
just
why
be-
you need to kill some of these characters.
They could
Stakes and just cull the herd. Like focal narrative focus.
And they would be easy to kill off too easy, I say, because they aren't fan favorites and people wouldn't care as much.
Is
And,
Mike
like,
Nancy's brother?
John? No. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
They all
the
have the
Wheelers.
same kind
Yeah.
of boring names.
Right.
And they have one younger sister, I believe.
Dustin's the only child.
Yes.
Yes.
And I've had one season was weird. Like the last season, the only one who had like a not Reagan vote for Reagan poster in their lawn or whatever.
Oh, funny. It was Dustin?
Also, Mike is a
There's-
great name.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
I
What?
said boring. I said Mike is a boring name. It's not a boring name. I meant to say they're all very like.
His name is Mike.
Yeah, I know, but I meant like.
It's like one of the most
No,
common names. in the
common
world.
is what I meant for like it's like a lot of movies
Yeah,
and
it's
they
nuts.
they all came up with the common names. Dustin, I remember because it's Dustin, and I'm like, whoa,
I had a friend named Dustin.
Dustin. I've never met a Dustin. Maybe because I'm European. Dustin is not a thing there.
Mm.
In Norway, it's like everybody's named Thomas. It's like just
Okay.
Thomas is
Thomas.
everywhere. Thomas.
Got to finish season 2 of Dark.
Oh, that is
That's a show
fantastic
that.
ending.
That's a
Did
show.
you see it all?
Oh my gosh, that ending.
We're like
Holy
a few
crap.
into it. Yeah,
But
I
that's
gotta-
a show that could have done some unique names just to keep track of who's who.
It is
because
hard to tell who's who
They
in Dark.
all look the same, and they have like the same kind of common names of like
I was-
Andreas. And,
Yeah, I'm watching it
you know.
like I'm watching the in German.
We
with
watch it in
subs,
German
and,
too.
like,
It's insufferable
season-
with the dub.
Oh yeah, dub's horrible.
The,
But
the
season-
English dub immediately we were like,
I don't know
nope.
why, but season 2 I didn't have as hard a time. Like season 1 at the beginning,
I'm keeping
it was a
track
little
now.
rough
Yeah,
for
but
keep
at
track,
first
but
I was like,
now
ugh.
it's like okay, I got it.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
got
They're
it.
all white people with
White
the most
people.
common names in the world. Nothing wrong with a common name, but I think in movies and stuff, like sometimes you need to do something to just make people remember, especially in ensemble casts.
I need to finish 12 Monkeys too. I'm like
I've
not at the
never-
end of that.
Jeez.
I like that show.
I still have to finish, but I don't think they've said anything about season 4, like date or anything like that.
Yeah, but I mean it's Netflix. We'll hear about it like in 2 days.
Oh yeah, they'll put out that trailer which has like the episode titles or whatever, like confirming it's 8 episodes or whatever. Like they put that out like a month after each season, and it's like, oh, yeah, I get excited, and then they'll put like, well, they did a weird, cool like viral marketing for this, like the
Yeah, the
mall
Apple
promo
1.0.
video.
Actually,
Yeah.
they said something July 8th, I think, today as we're shooting this. That Windows 1.0 had some other announcement.
I'm gonna look it up.
The
right
like
now.
binary or whatever on the end of their tweet was like July 8th.
Oh my gosh, but Stranger Things obviously is gonna have a season 4.
Yeah.
We obviously have expectations for that.
Christmas, time travel, going to the upside down.
Ooh, first headline. Even Rachel Wood calls out Stranger Things 3 for Hopper's toxic behavior. Never date a guy like this.
That was my thing. I was like Hopper has full, like in the second half of this thing, he's full gone from like charming dope with an anger management problem to just like full on jerk.
Yeah, just a jerk.
A-hole.
Yep.
I don't see anything about season 4, like firm information about it. So we'll have to wait and see. But I like the show left me in a good place at the end.
Yeah.
I'm very optimistic.
Yeah.
I'm more optimistic about season 4 than season 3 without knowing anything about season 3. Once I start seeing things about season 3 and the mall stuff, I'm like, okay, I think I'm a little bit more on board. But the end of season 2, I was like, ooh, they're gonna have to do a lot to like kind of
Yeah.
win me back in season 3.
I hope
The-
they don't introduce more characters.
They cannot. They
like I loved the new Robin.
Robin was
Robin is great. She's
best thing in the
awesome.
show, I think.
But like, please, just cut it off.
Develop these characters.
Yeah, develop.
Yeah.
There are
'Cause
too
the
many
characters-
people, and I don't know any of the kids' names. I keep mixing them up.
Well, because all the characters, they are sort of just sketches. They're not
Yeah.
full. And I mean, like, I think that,
Except
this
for a
isn't a
couple.
huge, like, character piece kind of show, but, like, I would just like to know more about all these people. Yeah, more
I mean,
nuance.
They could take characters away. Like, even before the start of the season, just be like, oh, this person will not be in season 4 for whatever reason. Like,
yeah, or
I
just.
mean, Johnson almost did that because the actor got caught with
busted
drugs
for-
or whatever.
Oh,
he couldn't get into
yeah.
the country.
saw
I mean, I don't
that.
even think they need to make a formal thing about it. Like,
Especially
like,
now.
oh, whatever. And, like, they live in different cities. It's just like they could just, like, touch base with someone and then, like,
Especially now when they've moved around and
Yeah.
half of them are adults.
like Nancy's in college or
Yeah, I
whatever,
was
and we
gonna
just
say,
don't
like,
see
Nancy and
her.
Jonathan
Yeah.
could both be in college and be
Please.
like, bye. Like,
Yeah.
you're not here either.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
could totally do that. But yeah, I agree with that point.
I have nothing
Definitely.
personally against. I just want to like clear the air. Nothing personally against Nancy and Jonathan. They're just really boring.
Their storyline was just kind of
Compared to what
And
as you
also-
said in season 1, how their dynamic was.
It's way
like,
cooler.
It's just they are nowhere near where that was.
Also, I meant common name, not boring name.
Yeah.
I gotta put my foreigner card up there and say that, yeah, common names. I just wish there were like. I'm gonna stop talking now.
Don't worry. I want to. This is so weird. But thank you both of you for joining on this discussion. I was very excited to talk about Stranger Things season 3, and thank you to everyone who's watching this right now. You're getting this spoiler mode and all of our other spoiler modes for being a $1 and up patron.
Yeah. Any level of patron.
Any level of patronage that is $1 and up, you get to see spoiler mode, and we got some more in the works coming. Hopefully.
Spoiler modes?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I
like
think
we're
so.
always planning more. So like this is an ongoing show and stuff.
Things
If
have
you-
been a
if-
little
if-
bugaboo
yeah.
at Easy Allies the last few
Yeah.
months.
If you're new,
So-
if this is your first one, like there are others we've done, there will be more that we do. This is a recurring show that we do, and we hope you enjoy it. And it's not always just movies and TVs. We do games as well. So
Yeah.
you know,
And if you're a patron and haven't checked out the other exclusives,
yes.
there's a handy new feature
Yes,
on the
thank you.
website.
Yes, that's what I was trying to
There's an
remember.
exclusives tab on the top now,
Yes.
and it takes you to that post so you can see all of our exclusive shows, exclusive episodes like the limited run series,
Achieve It
like
Yourself.
Achieve It Yourself, and for that
Fancy-
reason,
was it
Fancy
Fancy
15, and then Cup of
and
Jones.
For that reason,
Yeah.
yeah.
Watch them all. They're most of them are pretty cool.
Yeah, they're pretty good. Pretty good stuff. So, yeah, thank you both again. Thank you, everyone, for watching. And until next time, we'll see you again.
Bye.
Spoiler mode, final warning, spoiler mode activated.
Starts now. Push the little button.